excited. It's great to be back. Sorry I was away, but I had a little adventure in New York and Knoxville. I'll tell you all about it in the next video. But for now, let's get started. I've never known how to pronounce his name. You tell me, is it Aesop's Fables or Aesop's Fables? Well, whatever. Aesop wrote a bunch of fables, and one of them was the one about the fox and the sour grapes. See, there was this fox, and he saw these grapes up in the air, hanging from a tree. And he wanted to eat them, of course. And so what he did was he jumped and jumped and jumped and tried to get at the grapes. He tried and tried and tried, and, he failed. He failed to get the grapes. And finally, in frustration, tired, exhausted, he just looked up at the grapes and said, they're probably sour anyway. And he walked away. That's a fable. And like all great fables, it reveals a truth about human beings that is so universal. You go to any country, any time, anywhere on this earth, at any time on this earth, and you will see that people act that way all the time. They try to reach some goal, some objective, something that they really want. They try and they fail. And often as not, what winds up happening is that they keep on doing the same thing over and over again, like the fox. The fox, what did he do? He just kept on jumping up and down, trying to reach the grapes, and of course he failed. But instead of thinking through the problem and maybe, dragging over some rock that he could jump off of and reach the grapes, adapt to the situation. No, instead of adapting to the situation, instead of trying to use his brains to improve his situation so he could achieve his objective, what did he do? He just kept on repeating what he was doing and then finally gave up, exhausted, gave up and said, oh, it was probably crap anyway, and who gives a shit? That happens all the time. And it happens, with incels. And that's the point of this video. Incels, all the time, will say, oh, all women are whores. Because involuntary celibates try to get a woman. They try and they fail. And they try, and rather than adapt, they keep doing the same thing over and over again. They've been told and they've been taught that they should be, quote unquote, gentlemanly, that they should be, nice guys. And of course that fails miserably for reasons that we all know. And, they try and try and try with this approach that fails every time, just like the way the fox keeps on jumping up and down and fails every time. And eventually, what does the involuntary celibate say? He says, these women, they're not worth it. They're whores. They're this, that, the other. And they say a lot of times, they say, I'm going to go MGTOW. Men going their own way. I'm going to go MGTOW and fuck women. They're just whores. They're just thoughts. They're just this, that, the other. Right? The grapes were sour. See what I'm saying? That's what they say. Now, I don't have a problem with MGTOW. Okay? I think that men going their own way is a perfectly respectable option with one caveat. And the caveat is you actually have to have tasted the grapes, if you will. See, a man who's had, relationships with women, and for whatever reason he finds them unsatisfying or makes him or bring him unhappiness, and he decides that, something, I've tasted these grapes, I've had my fun with these women, but something, I'm going to go my own way. No women in my life, I'm going to go full on MGTOW. That's one thing, and that's perfectly respectable. Sure, because the guy knows what he's talking about. He's had relationships with women, and he has discovered that for whatever reasons, he is unhappy in those relationships, and he has decided to go his own way. That's perfectly fine, perfectly respectable. But if you're an involuntary celibate, you're just indulging in sour grapes if you go MGTOW. Yeah. You're just saying that rather than adapt and try to achieve my objective, I'm going to just say that this objective is shitty and rotten and awful, and I'm not going to try anymore. You're giving up. And And that's wrong. See? If you have a goal in mind, and I'm not talking just about, women, okay, in everything in life. If you have an objective in mind, and it's an objective that you can achieve because you yourself have the qualities, or you have seen other men like you, no different from you, who have achieved this objective, well, if you can achieve this objective, then you should achieve it. And if you are not achieving it, it's because of your failure. It's not because the grapes are so sour. It's not because the women are these sluts and whores. It's not because this achievement in your job or your profession or your business is, unattainable except for geniuses. No, no, no. If you are failing to achieve your goal, it's because you are failing to adapt. I talk about this all the time. I did a whole video called Adapt or Suffer. You can find it right here. See, it's very easy to fall into the sour grapes mode and say that you're not achieving something because the objective in and of itself is rotten or bad. It's very easy, but it's the excuse of the loser. It's the excuse of the man who's failing to adapt, who's failing to look at his situation and realize the way I am going is not helping me reach my objective. Therefore, I have to pick a different path, a different way of doing it so that I can reach my objective. My objective might be here, and I'm trying to reach it, and I have obstacles. Well, then I have to go around these obstacles. I have to figure out a way to achieve my goal. I can't be of the mindset that just because I keep repeating the same thing over and over again and fail to achieve my goals, then that means that the goal is not worth achieving. You see what I'm saying? Because, and this is the reason, and I'll tell you the truth of the matter, because I've seen it countless times before. When you give up on an objective, on something that really matters to you, when you fall for sour grapes, when you say that the women are whores, or this objective is shitty, or whatever it is, okay? When you fall for sour grapes, then a bitterness descends on your life. A bitterness that is, because I've seen it. And sometimes in certain aspects, I have to admit that I myself have experienced it. And certain things that I myself wanted and sort of like failed to achieve and then said, fuck it, sour grapes and all the rest of it, I recognize that in that areas of my life, I am bitter. All in all, I'm blessed by the fact that in my life in general, I'm quite happy and quite content and satisfied. And the things I've achieved, I treasure them. And the things I have failed to achieve that were just a little bit beyond my grasp, well, it happens to everybody. Everybody has some goal or objective that is a little bit beyond their grasp, right? But insofar as the few objectives, and I'm thankful that they are few, in the few objectives where I sour graped it, when I said, it's not worth it, I so regret it. I so regret it. And I know men, friends of mine, and guys I grew up with, who had some great goal in mind, and they decided, it's not worth it. And they lived without regret for the rest of their life. The regret dominated their lives. And it's a horrible thing, because there are only a few things that I regret in my life, but these guys have major things that they regret, that they sour graped, and the decades ahead of them just became sour as those grapes in the fable of Aesop's fable. It just wrecked their lives, and you don't want to go there. It is much better to try with all your might to achieve a goal, to try every strategy, every tactic, everything that you can possibly think of, adapt in every way possible, and try to achieve your objective, your goal, and fail. It's much better. That is much better than to turn your back on your objective and say, it's just, it's just sour grapes. Because later on in your life, you're going to be kicking yourself and wondering why you didn't try harder, why you didn't adapt more, change approaches, right? You're going to be thinking of that. It's going to gnaw at you, okay? And it will make of your life a bitter thing, and you don't want that. I'm telling you, man, because I'm I'm about to be 51 years old, more than half a fucking century old. So I know what I'm talking about, you know? I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it. It's not that I'm smarter, I've just been around longer and I've seen it. And you never, ever want to be that guy who says, 20 years after the fact, you say to yourself, oh, if only I'd done this, I would have gotten that and my life would have been so much better. You don't want to be that guy. It is much better to be the guy who tried everything, every possibility, and just couldn't reach the goal. It's better to be that guy than the guy who sort of like turned his back on his objective and said, it's not worth it. Believe me. I'm repeating myself in this video, but I guess I'm repeating myself in this video because I just feel so strongly about this because, like I said, I've seen it and it is just so sad